Welcome, everyone. Really glad that you're here today for our session all about technology and tools. We'll just give everybody another 30 seconds to join and then we'll kick it off. We got a lot of great content for you today, so just give them a few more seconds here. Probably one of our higher attended sessions we've done in a long time. Like over 300 people registered for this one. So thank you again for joining us today. So, yeah, let's get started. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, at RunSignup, we truly believe that whether you're directing a 100-person race or an 8,000-person event, you should have the tools and technology to provide your participants with a modern race day experience. And from the smallest to the biggest races. You know, we're here today to really, let me advance the slide here, to talk about the tools and the technology in terms of like what they are and why you would want to use those, so that you as race directors will feel empowered to go ask your timer for what you want, and that they can provide you the best and easiest experience, not only for the participants, but also for your staff and for volunteers, and making it a really great experience for everybody. And the other thing we want you to know is that RunSignup has invested greatly to provide these tools and technology and made it really easy for the timer to implement it. And so today, there's a handout about how you do this, and we have other content that we can provide to you. But the main thing to think about here today is the experience and the tools and technology and the what and why you would want to do it, and then have those following conversations with your timers about that for your events. And that's really what we're here to really empower you with today. And choosing the right combination of things that you see today that will work for your event. So today we have a full board of staff for you. Again, you know, when we talk about that investment, I'm a developer. I lead up the event day development team, but we're talking about 7 developers completely dedicated to building these tools and technology that you see here. That's quite an investment that RunSignup has made. We also have dedicated support people like David that you'll be hearing from in a moment. So these are people that are dedicated to providing you technical support and your timers technical support to make sure that your event day goes well. And then we have people like Matt Avery, who are product managers that really work with you to make sure that we're implementing those things that you need and provide. So he'll be speaking to that today also in terms of some of these things. So I'm going to hand it off to David, and he's going to really kind of talk about what the role of a timer is. And again, you're here today as a race director, but kind of understanding that partnership between you and your timer.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the role of a timer. So the timer is the backbone of the endurance industry. A lot of their events every weekend, they're providing technology, they're providing results, they're inundated with the industry. They to get started as a timer, you need a large financial investment. I know I looked into it, starting my own company for a while, and to get the equipment I needed for my most likely contract, I would have had to spend over $40,000 for the absolute bare minimum. And that's not counting the year-to-year costs of providing tags, staying up to date with various softwares, hardwares, things like that. And also not counting the contractors you have to pay, the help you need to bring in. And so I know timers that have spent 10 years paying off their initial investment, and they're just now getting there, and they're timing over 300 events a year with their fairly small company. It's a lot. But because of all that, they have a lot of experience, and so you'll find that your timers can answer questions that fall outside of the role of results alone. The part of the industry I came from, a lot of people were full-time timers, but the vast majority of timers that are doing 500-person races and smaller have second jobs. This is something they do either as a hobby or as a side business. That doesn't mean they're any less knowledgeable. It just means that their focus can be split. In our industry report, we gathered some data from timers about what they provide. Myself and Soren, who's also in this presentation, we both came from data-driven timing companies, and so we pretty much would do anything involving data, which would include registration, results, texting, notifications for results, tracking, things like that. But we wouldn't so much deal with the course setup, course verification, things like that. There are lots of timers, as you can see here. The second largest column is 81% of timers provide race directing, which is something you have to pay extra for. But the idea behind that is they take care of the race day, and because of all that experience, it's a great thing to be able to access. You can find that in the handout. I think it's the top one, the race industry trends. So the first thing we're going to talk about is QR codes and how you can use things like that to set up for success on race day. I ran into I drove past a banner the other day that had a RunSignup link on it, and it was the full link. And so the only way you could access that driving 50 miles an hour is reading really quickly. I worked for RunSignup, and it still took me about 15 minutes to find the actual race when I got home, to send them an email to say, hey, you guys should put a QR code on that banner so people don't die trying to sign up for your race driving down the highway. These QR codes are automatically generated. They can be found on your dashboard under promotions and links. There's a multitude of different QR codes, and make sure you select the top one. Many times in support, I found that people have accidentally pulled the first one, which is donations, not sign up. But there are automatically QR codes for registration URLs, race day registration, results page, donations, and volunteer sign up. Additionally, when you send out when they register, they receive a QR code that is their participant ID. So when they show up to the race to get their bib, all you have to do is scan it using the check-in app, which we talk about later, and you'll automatically find them. We also recommend sending out an email. Email the participants their registration ID. And so if you look under pre-built templates on this in email v2, there are race weekend emails that are made and ready to go. All you have to do is fill in a little bit of information. It'll pull your race location, your race name, the participant's event, participant's name, and their QR code. So if you give this email a subject line at packet pickup QR code, they can find it right away on race day, get their QR code in and out in seconds. There are once again in the handout, there are links to find out how to do this and how to best find that information. Sorry, that was a duplicate. In addition, another thing you can do QR codes for we have an example ad here where people can scan the QR code after the finish line to go directly to results, or you can set up text messaging. So if you would text a certain code to a number, they'll be sent back the proper link depending on what they texted. There are results, sign up, race info, and there's a few others. Same way, every piece of marketing you put out there should have a QR code for either donations, sign-ups, or something like that. You'll be amazed at how, if you make things easy, participants are going to jump at it. If you make things difficult, it doesn't take much to dissuade participants, and they'll move on to the next thing. We also offer volunteer management for race directors. I know James and Shelly have been setting up a race lately, and they found this extremely helpful. It's a fairly simple system. You can set up various tasks with time slots and how many people you need, and then you market this volunteer system exactly like you would market signups. And then come race day, you're able to quickly access the data of who signed up for what. There's a way to easily communicate with your volunteers as to what you expect, when you need them there. You can group them by task category. So if you have people who are helping up with general race setup, you can email all of those people at once rather than emailing all the volunteers about all the information. Keep things as simple as possible for the people that are helping you out for free. The check-in system, as I said, has integrated emails, volunteer reports, so you can see who's signed up and when. The one downside to this, and it's something that we're working on right now, is that you do need an account to sign up to be a volunteer. There are two different passwords that can be required for volunteer setup. You can restrict volunteer tasks. So say you want course marshals to be specific people. You can restrict those to only people that have a password, but regardless, they still need to use their account to log in, and that causes confusion sometimes. Unfortunately, that's not something we've changed yet. I know it's in the works when we refresh the volunteer system, but that's a ways out. Next, we have race day registration. About 10% of people wait until race day to sign, or race week to sign up. Back when I first started timing, which wasn't that long ago, it was mid 2010s, this was a huge pain because there wasn't really integrated systems. So if I was timing on a RunSignup race, I would have to go in, download a CSV, clean up the CSV, and then import that into my scoring system. This always took time. So when I would, on race day morning, amidst setting up all my hardware and everything else, I would have to do all this for races that wanted race day registration. Or I would have to pay somebody to do paper, like process the paperwork and type everything in for me, which isn't fun because typos happen and things like that. However, with race day scoring, which is our scoring platform, the integration is seamless. You can have someone scan a QR code, go through a quick registration process, and then that information will be on the scorer's computer within seconds. They don't have to worry about it. They don't have to check it. Everything just flows from one system to the other. Doing it that way is much better than having to deal with paper or CSV. In addition, it keeps all of your data in the same place. Many times I had one race that had 400 race day registrations every year. And every year I would have to either import that or send them the CSV so they could keep their database intact. And so having that flexibility is great for a timer and a race director. So the best way to do this, I think, is to post QR codes in multiple places, let people scan those, and do it on their phone. You want to make sure you have staff and volunteers mingling to make sure that people don't have questions or get stuck. Because even though we do offer support on the weekends, I think our response time on the weekends is generally within like 15 minutes. But that 15 minutes can be big on race day morning, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for that, even if it's yourself that's wandering around, making sure participants are easily able to register. The biggest thing about this, though, is you have to make sure that registration is actually open. A lot of times you might close registration the night before, and then even though you have race day registration active, the event itself is closed. And that's tripped up a few people before. So throughout the life of your event through sign up, you want to have scaling registration prices. This means that you have an early bird fee of say $30, and then 2 months after you open up registration, you bump it up to $35. A lot of registration, and the exact numbers in the industry trends report. Sorry about that. But many people wait until the last day before signing up, before the price increases. And so the more incremental increases you have, the more you'll be able to drive early registration, which is nice for you because you don't have to spend extra money on medals and shirts and things like that. And finally, that pricing strategy, you want to have a higher race day price for several reasons. First of all, because it is moderately inconvenient. You and your timer will end up spending more money on the scoring technology because they can only prepare so many things in advance. And if they have extras, then they can't necessarily be used again. So you want to offset that cost a little bit, but also you just want people to sign up early. So having this higher race day price will help you make more money and prevent people from waiting. Matt, I think this is you, right?
Yes, it is. I'm going to try and take over. Show my screen.
The pass-off process is clearly seamless, as you can see.
Okay. Should be good now. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about scoring technology. So this is my expertise as also a timer myself. And so we're going to talk about why it's so critical to have software that's well integrated with your registration platform. So just a quick overview before we get into it. As a race director, you may not quite understand what timers do. You know, they have heavy mats they bring out, and they have these boxes that sit out in the road that seem pretty important. So basically, what's going on is everybody's wearing a chip. You've seen those on the backs of the bibs. That chip has a unique ID for that person that transmits the data and the time that they crossed each of your different locations. And that eventually gets matched up to their registration information, like their name, their gender, their age, and so on. So our scoring software takes all that data, mashes it up, and turns it into results. So we know when they crossed each of the different locations, we know their name and their info, and then we're able to put it all together into a report, do all the scoring breakdowns like age groups and awards, and publish all that data back to RunSignup for results. So it's a really critical piece of your race day experience, and you have to make sure that you know, the timers that you're using are able to support the features that you want to offer to your spectators and your participants. So now we're going to get into more of that stuff. So first off, you know, it's really important that you understand all these chip systems are different, and there's many different options out there for users. One of the big things that we've done here at RunSignup is invest a lot of time and money into supporting a variety of different hardware manufacturers. So here in this graph, we show all the different hardware systems that we integrate with. And you know, MyLapse is very popular, and then we have all these other ones that we support as well. But the point of this is that you know, race day scoring does a really good job of integrating with multiple different platforms, and things are changing. You know, this year MyLapse has a great piece of hardware out there. Next year Race Result has another one. Some timers have both hardware and they want to use the same software, and race day scoring does make it easy for them. So this is just showing, you know, many timers are using multiple different scoring softwares. It kind of depends on the timer itself. Okay, so let's talk about, you know, why software is important to race directors. It's really important because it's going to streamline the connection between participants, scoring, and result data, so that the participants will have a really great experience at the event, and spectators will be able to see the results for their friends and loved ones ASAP. This is really critical that you think about this when you're determining, you know, which timer you're going to be hiring. Number one, you want to make sure that whatever software they're using is able to support you wanting to leave registration open until the last minute, like David just talked about. It's really, really nice if you can leave that registration until the last minute. People are very familiar these days with just scanning a QR code and registering on site. So you want to try to engage with that as much as possible. But in order to do that, you have to make sure that the scoring software your timer is using is well integrated, so you don't end up having to send spreadsheets at the very last minute, someone's formatting it. So this is just something to take into consideration. The second part of that is, you know, you really want to make sure that your results can be posted as soon as possible. So the two questions I have on the right here are, when you're working with a timer, ask them, when you're having a discussion with them, ask them, hey, how late can I leave online registration open, and how quickly are you able to have results published online? Those are two really critical questions to ask of your timer, because those are a really big defining factor of how nice of an experience your spectators have and your participants have. And guess what? That's going to make them come back next year. So anything you can do to improve that experience on site is just going to make you more money in the long term. So in terms of race day scoring, what we offer, you know, we have a little bit, you know, it's a little bit unfair because we are owned and operated by RunSignup. So our product, race day scoring, is extremely well integrated, the best system in terms of integration with RunSignup that's out there. Any changes that happen to participant data immediately happen in race day scoring or after a few seconds. This really is great because it allows you to make sure your data is in alignment with online registration at all times. Don't have to worry about spreadsheets, manual data entry, and so on. As you get closer to race morning, you just leave it open until the very last minute, or even after the gun goes off. I've heard of people collecting registrations after the race has already started. Hey, you're just getting money, so you might as well. The next big part that you want to think about with your scoring software, when you're talking with timers, as a race director, it's not really your thing. It's not your wheelhouse. You're not thinking about scoring software that much, but you are thinking about, you might have some really crazy idea of how to set up a unique lap race scenario that you want to do for an event. And it's important that you talk to your timer to make sure that they can support whatever crazy idea that you have to put on a cool race. And we've heard all sorts of crazy fun ideas about scoring races. RaceDay scoring is a very flexible piece of software that does allow you to do all sorts of ideas and scoring methodologies that to ensure that the results themselves will be sufficient for your needs. I've got some guides on how to get started with like lap races. There's also some more in the doc as well if you are interested in that at all. But most important thing here is just communicate any unique scoring scenarios that you have with your timer ahead of time, so that they can be sure that they are able to give you results that will work for you and that expectations are met. The next part of timing software I want to talk about is result publishing. So result publishing, it's expected these days. People want to see their results right away. They want to get their alerts sent to them right away. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is critical and people have come to expect it now. So you have to make sure that whatever scoring software is being used can post results instantaneously. RaceDay scoring obviously does a great job of this and essentially can be pushing results as people are coming in. So it's just another thing to think about. Participants really want to get notified about their finish as soon as possible. All their friends and family who registered to track them through RunSignup results, they're going to want to see their friends and loved ones' times as soon as possible. So kind of bringing it all together, RaceDay scoring and the scoring software is kind of the central part of your event day, and basically is tying together your registration information, that result information, and check-in as well. So obviously we're highly recommending that you use RunSignup's RaceDay scoring for full integration with RunSignup technology. Now we do support integrations with other scoring products out there. It's just they're not going to be quite as fast, they're not going to be quite as easy to use for their integrations, and some features may or may not be supported. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the RaceDay check-in app. This is one of our favorite applications that we have. It's an amazing piece of software. It's definitely worth checking out. Even if you aren't planning on doing a check-in experience on site, it can be used in a multitude of interesting ways just for other features. And yeah, so let's get into it. So RaceDay check-in, it's a game changer, absolutely. It's the most valued product by our timers. And it's a timer's role to set up and integrate with other technology. So we usually expect that timers kind of service the RaceDay check-in app. In 2023, we had 9,500 races use RaceDay check-in. 5,000 races had 200 or less participants. So it's a pretty significant fact there that it's not just big events who do RaceDay check-in or use check-in on race site. That's a lot of small events as well. 3.7 million participants were checked in with the RaceDay check-in app. It's astounding. So we also found that about a third of all races used the RaceDay check-in app, and about 40% of all 2023 participants were checked in with the RaceDay check-in app. So the big takeaways for this and why you want to use it are that it expedites the check-in process for participants and volunteers. So you can use this piece of software to check in not only your participants who are showing up, they've registered to run the race, but also your volunteers. We have a whole platform of volunteer management, and you can change modes in the app to say that I'm actually checking in my volunteers, the people who are showing up to help me out with my aid stations and so on. So
Matt,
yeah,
if I can interrupt real quick.
Absolutely.
I've got a bib right here.
There you go.
The race director put a QR code, well, two QR codes on the bib. One of them is for results, and the other is for check-in. The check-in is just the number, and that way, instead of having to rely on the volunteers typing in the number, they can just scan the bib.
Yep.
Typos in the bib check-in process can be pretty rough, so you want to avoid those whenever possible.
Yep, makes a big difference. Having the you don't have to worry about people messing up, got fat thumbs, typing in the bib numbers wrong. Having that pre-race email that David talked about earlier is really important. to getting your your data correct. Also, it just helps out with insights so that they can get a report on the back end to see how many people are getting checked in at different times throughout the day. It does help out analysis. Let's get going to the next one here. So just going to do a quick overview of some key settings with the RaceDay check-in. There's some things there's a bunch of different things you can do. These are a few that we always recommend. Requiring a bib. If you are doing dynamic bib assignment, you want to make sure that your volunteers using the app are not able to proceed without giving someone a bib number. Auto show camera on bib assignment. This allows the app to basically automatically bring up the camera when you're going to enter in a bib number for someone, so they don't try to type it in before they go and scan that QR code. Giveaway, I'm showing the giveaway. You can see your t-shirt size right in the app as you're checking someone in. These ones are, this one allow uncheck-ins is maybe more of an administrator feature, or maybe not, depends. Basically whether or not you want to allow someone to be able to undo a check-in process. Preventing duplicate bibs may or may not be applicable, but it is a feature that we support. And validating bibs on the back end at RunSignup, you can say 5K is only from bib 1 to 100, 10K is 101 to 200, and then the app will enforce that. And then additional settings like waivers and event transfers, totally dependent on the specifics of your event. What the takeaway is that there's a ton of different options available to you with the check-in app. You can customize the experience and have different configurations. So you may have one configuration that's used for the t-shirt station, one that's used for the check-in station, or maybe you have it all in one and it's a lot easier that way. But we are very flexible, and if you need recommendations on how to set up your check-in experience, feel free to let us know. So dynamic bib assignment, we talk about this a lot. Sometimes people don't quite understand what it is, and this picture on the right kind of shows it off pretty well. So we have our bib number with a QR code on it that has the bib number itself encoded into it, so 3000 in this case. When someone is checking someone in, what they'll do is ask them their name, the person who's walking up. They'll type in their information, or if they happen to bring their registration confirmation email, they can scan the confirmation email. It'll bring up their info, and then they can go right to scanning the bib number, and then they hand that bib to them. So what's great about this is you can get participants checked in like 6 seconds. If you can have them all bring their phones with their registration confirmation emails, it's even faster. It's super, super quick, and we've seen major events do this and do it very effectively. So let's talk about some other functions of the RaceDay check-in that you may want to look into. So the results kiosk is really cool. It's basically another mode of the check-in app. It allows you to reuse your check-in devices as a result lookup kiosk after the race is over. I like this feature for races because it allows you to not have to bring like big, heavy result kiosk computers to a race site. You can simply reuse the tablets that you're already using for RaceDay check-in, flip the configuration over to results kiosk, and then participants will be able to walk up, scan their bib that they're already wearing, and get their results brought up to them. So it's a really cool little feature that we added the past year. We have a little video guide here to show it off as well. Medical mode is another one of those default configurations that's in the system. This is a kind of a unique feature for particular use case. If you have a major marathon or something and you need, for whatever reason, to be able to keep track of participants entering and leaving a medical tent, so you want to know this person entered at this time and left at that time, you can use this feature as a way to check someone in and then out of the medical tent, and then all that data will be available to you on the back end at RunSignup. So this is great. You can also do other things like customize the data that is shown here. You may want to put emergency contact info in. You may want to include a custom question that the race organizer has added in there about allergies or some kind of medical thing. So you do want to be careful with this. If you are including sensitive medical data on it, just make sure you are abiding by any HIPAA regulations. But it is a feature that is pretty cool for that particular use case. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about this other kind of mode, which is changing info. So it allows you to basically customize or quickly update participant information by customizing the lookup result setting. What this does is basically, instead of assigning a bib number or landing on a page to view information about a participant, you could go right to the page where you can change some information about a participant. So there's a ton of different use cases for this. One really easy idea is you may have a configuration set up to quickly change the corral assignment or wave assignment for participants who show up for the early start. So it's very typical to have an early start at a race, and it's a handful of people maybe. So what you can do is have a staff member or a volunteer use this configuration, walk over to the early start, see the 5 people, scan their bibs, and then it'll bring them right to the screen where they can change their corral assignment to early start. So all they gotta do is just scan it, change the corral to early start, and then guess what? That data is syncing to RunSignup and back down to the timing computer as well. So it's all about that data synchronization.
Thank you, Avery.
You got it.
Okay, great. So this is the part that I love the most because this is near and dear to my, screen. Near and dear to me. I started RaceDay 11 years ago, and so we'll be talking about tracking. You know, this is also one of those areas where I find the most questions from participants in terms of how they're going to be tracked at events and understanding technology and how you do as a race director and communicating what you're providing. It's important for you to really understand what's available and the different types of technology that's available. So we're going to talk today about really 2 types of tracking. There's the tracking that can be provided by wearing that RFID bib tag, and then there's also tracking that can be available by having some type of device that can give a GPS tracking. So we're going to look at those 2 now, and the technologies that may be provided by your timer. So timers traditionally have put out equipment. Those equipment was to get that start and finish. There may have been some split points, and then you move all the way up to the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon, and they're putting actual mats out every single mile of their event. And so they have the budget in order to really put out a lot of equipment. So in line with that, you can also provide real-time tracking based on that equipment that you put out. And so this is really the gamut of things that can be done with it. It can come from as simple as just text alerts being sent out based on this data, all the way up to systems that will actually try to project and provide kind of like an estimated dot on a map of where people are based on that. So it's all based upon the actual equipment that you put out, and we're getting those data points, and we're figuring out pace, and we're figuring out when they're estimated to be finished, and it's all based upon just really getting those passings. And so really from the participants' perspective, they just don't understand any of this. They just think, hey, I'm getting tracking. I just need to know where they are and when they're going to be done. And so, what you have to do as a race director is really understand the 2 types of technology, and then also think about how you're going to provide for that technology for your event. And really, this does become a question of budget and in terms of like what you can do in terms of how much equipment you can put out. And the good thing is that, again, RunSignup, we're always trying to push the envelope for that 100-person event to provide you with a way to have that type of technology and making it easy for your timer to do that. So how do we do that? So we embarked a few years ago on this whole text messaging service that's based upon those timing alerts coming over different mats, and we've now made that completely free. If your race is using RunSignup registration, your timer can actually, just as Avery's been describing, if they're using the right kind of software, it's a super, super easy integration, and they can actually provide for that kind of real-time text alert system based upon those different points. So if you're putting out equipment every mile, you're getting those types of alerts, and you're able to provide that. And again, it becomes a question of budget in terms of being able to put out equipment. But in terms of costs of text messaging and infrastructure and systems that can process all that data, the key point here is that RunSignup is providing you all that technology and really have eliminated that part of the cost and enabling and empowering your timers to really provide for that type of experience, whether or not you're the Boston Marathon or a 100-person event. And so again, in terms of just setting it up, it's super easy. It automatically becomes part of your race menu, participant tracking. People, when they're registering, they're actually registering for the event, and we'll get this alert if you set it up, and they'll say, hey, you want to get your alerts, you want to get your stuff, and they can actually do it while they're actually registering. Later, they can send their friends and family to the website to sign up. And then more importantly for you, you have a way to have a URL that just sends you straight to this page that's all set up for participant tracking. Whether or not you're just doing text alerts, or in a minute we're going to be talking about GPS, it's all in one place with one URL for them to go. And you can use that URL on your marketing, on your websites, and your social media, saying, hey, go here for participant tracking. And again, this is all about text alerts and providing those alerts to people's phones. And people have to sign up, and they have to put in their phone numbers, and they have to kind of opt in. So that's one of the things about text alerts, that they have to find that link, and they also have to be able to like put up their phone and get all that. And so there's a little bit of enablement piece there, and that's probably why you see this will be used less than if you are able to provide something like an app where they're going in and looking at an app. So this kind of turns the point towards GPS tracking. You're using a system like ours or any other system, at the end of the day, you're providing some type of device that the participant's going to carry, and that's going to provide data points. What's different with this type of data versus the bid tag data is that this is continuous data. And with this, you're actually getting real-time position. You know exactly where that participant is. The pace is real-time. It's much more accurate. Instead of it very complex algorithms where you're trying to figure out, are they slowing up, are they speeding up based upon the last segment of RFID data, you know, it becomes very, very real-time, very accurate, very good estimated finish times. So you're really providing the next level of tracking because you're able to really give real-time data, real-time position for that participant. But it does require them to carry some type of tracking device. And so, but you know, that's the other aspect. But and there's a lot of savings and costs because you're not having to put out timing equipment every mile to provide for that kind of real-time progress. And again, it can be used to kind of bring it all together. And that's really what RunSignup is all about. How can we bring these two technologies together for you and make it easy for you to provide both real-time tracking and text alerts all in one event? And so our answer is RaceJoy, which RunSignup acquired 8 years ago. As of this time, we've had 2 million usages. We've been used over 7,400 events over 10 years. And it really does provide much more than just the tracking of the participants using the GPS of the phone. It provides for a full race experience and for people. And so for the athlete, you know, they're able to feel connected. While I'm out there exercising and doing my event, I'm feeling connected to my loved ones. They're able to send me messages. They can send me texty cheers. They can send me fun messages. And I know that I'm connected to them in what I'm doing. And also, this works for participants that are completely in a remote environment. They may not have any cellular connection. They're still getting feedback that they're on course. They know that they're you know, in the right place for types of trails, events, and so forth. And then for you as race directors, you can create a very custom themed audio experience. We have a lot of race directors that are really creative with this and providing for not only the tracking, but also different audio that's presented at different points to make them feel like, again, they're connected to something that is better and more special than the typical event. All this technology is provided by our timers, and it's, again, we've done a lot of work on this over the last 10 years. It's all about low costs, so that we really have eliminated the cost for the timers, and they're really just working their costs to help you provide this technology for your events. Now, for the spectators, you know, really it's key. I'm getting updates every mile. I know exactly what the pace is. I know exactly when they're going to be getting finished. It's giving me real-time data that I can act on if I'm on site. And then, you know, whether or not they're on site or across the world, they're able to activate and get associated with that participant. When we're looking at monitoring on the weekends, we're seeing cheers being sent from the Middle East to India to the, you know, to the Far East, you know, especially when you have military people that are with their loved ones. So it's really cool to see in that engagement. And probably one of the most common support emails we get after the event is, oh, you know what, I want to relive my cheers. Where is that again? And you know, we tell them where to find them. So also with this system, this is important for your race direction. You have a tool now where you can centrally monitor and see what's going on in real time on a course. And so whether or not you're wanting to know where the lead of the race is or the tail of the race, just in general, are your volunteers doing what they need to do and directing the race? We've over the last 10 years seen many cases where volunteers have directed runners wrong, races have this real-time system they can act on quickly and get the majority of the race back on track. And again, those off-course alerts are a big part of it. Everything that we've been talking about today is about integration, integration, integration. And so RaceJoy is a part of that. Now with this app, they're able to not have to go scan a code to get the result. The results are right in their phone, right on their app, and it's all part of their experience when they're done. I don't have to go try to find a result, a kiosk, whatever. I can just look on my phone and see my official time results showing right inside your event. So again, that monitoring is really key. This is the one thing, we have a lot of events that will actually put their volunteer on a lead bike or a tail bike and actually track that so they know exactly in real time what's going on. They can also get a feeling that everything's going well out there and that everything is going to plan. And so it's something really important for race directors to just be able to look at quickly and make sure that everything's going as expected. So where are we going in 2024? This is, again, where it all comes together. So we talked about text alerts and the ability to set up this URL that people can go and type in a phone number. Well, let's make it one step easier. Let's just make that same timing data that you set up and you paid for the timer to put out certain points. Let's let that timing data actually generate an alert just as if it was a GPS alert. So this is for those participants that don't want to carry the phone. The spectators can still come into the app, still get an experience, can still get alerts, and kind of gets, again, it'll never be as accurate in terms of the estimated finish time and the pace, but it will be some data. And they'll also be able to look at the results as we talked about. So it really does simplify the experience for the spectators. You don't have to think about, oh, this link and how do I communicate where they go. All you have to do is say the word RaceJoy, and they'll find the event in RaceJoy, and they just find those people, and they can set up and get those notifications. And so this is what we're in the middle of right now, and this will be out this year. Really excited about this for RaceJoy. So now we kind of turn to, we've done the event, and how do we relive that event, and how important it is that you provide an experience for them to relive the event. And we call this results, photos, and videos, because at the end of the day, I've done something, but when I go back later and I'm reviewing that information, this is going to create feedback, not only for me, it's going to create feedback for people that watch me do the event and also maybe other things. And so like the very first time I went to start training for an event, it was because I was a spectator for my friend. And I was really watching what was going on. I was seeing this, and it turned me into a participant. So what you do is very important in this area because at the end of the day, you're providing that reminder of what that meant. You're giving them things that they can look at. You're giving your sponsors sponsor placements. We have a lot of events they're doing really well with on the results, and that result detail, they can actually put sponsor logos and things like that. They can put watermarks in the photos. So again, you're giving value not only to the participant to relive, but you're giving value to your sponsors so they can kind of see this all come together for them. And probably the most important place is going to be after the event when they're looking at the results and their photos. So RunSignup has spent over the last 4 or 5 years a lot of technology in terms of photos and trying to bring and understand how to auto tag photos and do all this technology. And all this stuff is like right there. When they're looking at their result detail, they're going to see their photos, they're going to see their videos. It's all going to be linked together in one place in their profile. And it really is one of the perks of having the results, in that kind of place. And this is really an area that we're working even more on to make this even more branded for the timer, to give the timer also value. Big focus for us this year and making sure that this looks and acts in terms of the timer that you partnered with, but yet still gives the participant this very integrated experience in terms of looking at the results. So this is a big perk of RunSignup. One thing that's often overlooked, and it's funny, we're working on an event right now, is that you are providing an event where most of the time it is just the individual results and everything. But there may be an element to your result, to your event, where there's some kind of like teams. It could just be family teams. It could be socially, like you've got people segmented in a certain way. It could be based on clubs. It could be based on a fundraiser you're doing, or it could just be based upon different corporate companies that you go after, and you're working with their health and fitness departments, and you're saying, hey, if you come to our event, we will not only have a great time, but you'll have some team results, and you can have different teams within your company displayed. So again, RunSignup spent a lot of work over the last few years making this really easy for timers to actually provide team results. So they can score the race, not only in terms of like the individuals, but they can also have another scoring that's based on this aggregate teams and provide that display for you with your results. And so it gives you something to think about as you try to engage different groups into your team. Talk to your timer about how you can also have team results and team results displays with that grouping that you're doing. And again, the photos are all tied into the results. Again, it's just getting a volunteer. A lot of events don't even necessarily have the budget to go get photographers out there for the day. They just use volunteers and they're uploading the photos. It's all getting auto tagged and provided with the with the results. A lot of times it's just a matter of just at the finish line setting up something that's just clicking away and getting those tagged photos associated with those results. And then we have other companies that have gone to the next level. I really think this is where things are going. We're actually working on a project right now with a college to truly bring this into RunSignup and do this. And that is, how special it is to be able to relive my finish. And when I'm looking at my results, to actually see that video of my finish and just have that memory in the years to come, and how powerful that can be. So again, RunSignup is all about providing that same race experience, whether or not you're this event and you had 200 people in it, but being able to provide that kind of technology and timers being able to have the tools so that they can really build that integrated experience with video. So the recap here, what's this all about today? It really is about you as race directors thinking about what does the race experience look like to you? What is it that you want to do for your staff to make it easier for them and your volunteers from registration through check-in all the way through the day? But also, what is the experience that you're trying to provide for your participants so they can relive and want to come back to your event? And so what you're doing to help create that experience is going to help create the next year a little bit of growth. It's also going to help turn spectators into future participants. It's going to provide that word of mouth. People are going to talk about that event when they're talking to their friends, and they're going to say, yep, that was a good one. Seamless, check-in was super easy. I didn't have to wait in line. It was like a dream. Like versus this other event where I had to deal with all these hurdles in terms of doing the event. Maybe I'm not going to go back to that next year. So again, this social word of mouth is very important. So as you think about and you plan with your timer the experience, know that this is really at the end of the day driving to what you want, and that is more registrations and more revenue for what you're trying to do with your event. And so at the end of this, it's all about empowering our timers. So timer search right off runsignup.com is your way to look to see how's your timer doing. Have they been trained on all those technologies? Do they understand these technologies? Have that conversation with them. Again, we've provided a handout that has a lot of webinars if you want to just explore on your own a little bit about the how. Today we were really talking about the what and the why. Why do you want to do this? And empowering you to have those conversations with your timer as you start looking at your next year event and thinking about the things that you may want to add or not add, and having that kind of partnership and conversation with them. And I think that was it. Did we have, lots of questions. That's great. Great to see the questions coming in. So Avery, I'm going to let you kind of socialize this. Anything you want to bring out to the presentation?
Real quick before he does that, something I forgot to mention earlier. Just because your timer doesn't offer something doesn't mean that they don't know the right person to ask about that. Because they do so many races and because they're around so many different people, you should really ask your timer, like, hey, who do you use for bibs? Or, hey, who would you suggest for photos? They've got a lot of experience, and that experience can be drawn on. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, it's really important. Thinking about it as a team, you and your timer are a team. You're there to make your experience for your spectators and participants as good as it can be. Think about some cool ideas, and float them to your timer, see if they're able to do it, see if they're able to get you a contact who's able to provide those services if they can't. There's a lot of good opportunities there. In terms of questions, not too much I needed to bring up. So yeah, I think we are pretty good unless anyone else has any questions.
Avery, you may want to just kind of talk through the difference between packet pickup and like race day check-in.
Sure.
And how those are similar or different, because some races treat those differently and stuff. So.
Yeah, one person did have a question about race day check-in in particular, and I think there may be a bit of a confusion. The product is called Race Day Check-in, but you can use it before race day. We definitely recommend that you do. So a lot of times packet pickups extend for a week before the race. You can absolutely use Race Day Check-in before the race itself. Yeah, feel free to do that, and it's definitely recommended. So for Race Day Check-in, you're using that app to provide the check-in experience to your participants. So they would show up, you would give them their bibs, you would assign them their bibs, and you can give them their t-shirt. It'll show you in the app what their shirt size selection was, and if there's any other custom questions that were added that you need to know about, like for a triathlon, their cap color, if they're in a corral based on their swim cap color, or anything like that.
And
so I think this is actually Mark Iverson. He's the skinny Raven, right? Yeah, I think he is. Anyways, he's asking about the YouTube videos and stuff. It's definitely something interesting. You know, I was looking at it when I was looking at your stuff. I don't think there's any way for you to get away from that. Again, that's what YouTube's all about, and they're going to take that space. I looked also for that. But yeah, we want to just honor you today, saying that a lot of what you're doing really matches to what people can do no matter the size of the event, and you do a great job with that. So that's why we chose you and your results for our demonstration today.
Yeah. One more question we had, David was talking about using 2 different QR codes in the bib. What do they go to? And this was, usually there's 2 kinds of things that you're using the QR code for. And in David's case, he has it, set up so that there's one that's used to identify the bib number itself, and one that's used for the participant to scan the bib so they can look up the results. So there's actually a recent update we made to the Race Day Check-in app. So depending on the the result URL that was used, we may actually be able to just use one QR code that's a result link. And as long as it ends with hashtag bib number 123 or whatever it is, it would actually work for both use cases. But typically, you want to have one way to identify the bib, and one that's used for the volunteer who's operating the check-in app. And the other QR code is for the user themselves or the participant themselves, so they can scan their bib and get the results. Those are the 2 kind of reasons there. But yeah, we actually recommend these days using one of the RunSignup result links that ends with their bib number, because that works with the check-in app as both, which is really cool, actually.
Yeah, and very cool. Yeah, we have some partners that are doing that today. So again, play around with that. You have the app in your hands, and you can kind of play around with that and just kind of play around with configurations. But yeah, just putting that extra little bit of stuff at the end of the URL will work for both purposes.
I also don't know why this event put both QR codes on the front. They probably should put the event use only on the back of the bib.
That'd be smart. Yeah.
Going back to the question about using Race Day check-in throughout packet pickup, I understood that question a little differently. The company I used to work for didn't really do dynamic bib assignments, and so we would put bibs, like assigned bibs, in envelopes, and then alphabetize them so that participant would come up and say, "Hi, my name's David Drew." Search through all the D's, find it, pull it out, hand them their bib. In that case, if you're doing that, the check-in app is less valuable. It's just an extra step. That being said, doing that for 1,000-person race takes a work day essentially to set all that up. With the check-in app, you can skip all that. Your timer doesn't charge you for envelopes or anything like that, or their own time, and so it's just a lot more convenient to use the check-in app than pre-planning and pre-assigning bibs.
Exactly. I think that's pretty much it, and we're wrapping up just on time. So
again, thank you so much for everyone attending today, and for those that will be listening to the recording later, we really appreciate your time looking at this information. I think someone said, and I'm just going to repeat it, this has been very helpful, and they're looking into all these aspects for next year's race, and that was a great comment. So that's what we hope for today, is that we might have sparked some ideas and some conversations between you and your timer. The timer is your how-to person. They are the ones that understand all the technology. They're the ones that get certified. So have those conversations with them, and it's going to be a great thing. and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you want to click the thumbs up button, you can do that and like the video. And also subscribe to the channel. That way you can see more tips that we have for you and get to know our developers and other people at the company.
And see how my forearms are progressing as I enter fatherhood.
So riveting stuff. You're going to want to subscribe.